This morning's live. Well, we have the exact same scenario playing out that's happened for 4 months in a row. It doesn't seem we're going to get any relief over the weekends. And, it's one of those scenarios that as it plays out more and more and more and more, we're going to have to start to objectively look at it from a standpoint of, is this a market that has any opportunity, or is this a market that continuously forces us to give everything back after every turn up? So I'm going to look at this in a fashion. We're going to look at it for the weekend and then to see what could potentially start next week. And we're just going to take it like that. So we'll see how many people participate. We'll see how many people are showing interest. But it's definitely becoming tougher and tougher as the days go on. I think that everything is set up fine this morning. It didn't give me the issues like yesterday, so we can do the live. So Shane, Jeremy, welcome in. Wales, Josie Wales, welcome in. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge along with Mo. And Mo, appreciate seeing you here as well, my friend. Ben, Alex, good morning. Jorge, welcome in. And thanks for being a very trusted mod in Tom's Army for over 6 months. Says, hello, people. Hello, Tom. Hit that like button and subscribe to Tom's channel for the best TA on YouTube. I appreciate that, my friend. Defined Group, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for 2+ months with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. Lag, good morning. Any news came out that causing this dump? Nope. Just the standard weekend dump here. We're just on a standard weekend pull down. And unfortunately, what's starting to happen is even when we get some upward volatility, we're just coming right back through and we're making lower lows on certain assets. Like XRP went all the way up, rejected at its area of resistance, and now has pushed itself back down. It's honestly getting to a point in crypto where we might have a phase through, and if we get a phase down, it's going to end up being down to like 64K for Bitcoin. The best we could do is 74K if it starts phasing itself out now. This is a very big moment here, because if we come through, let's say XRP comes through that $2 again, we've seen DGB gave it all back. So some of our outliers to start ended up being a lot of noise. And it ended up just being an anomaly. So some of these that we were hoping would start to push off in the right direction, they ended up going the complete opposite way. As far as cryptocurrency, for me, it's on the back burner now for a little while. I do hold certain assets, but some of them have been relieved of their duties. Some of them are not as heavy. And like XRP's fine, XRP Healthcare and such. Couple of them like DGB as of for now, but I'm not looking to expand right now. If it falls through here, I very well might take the rest of my profits and let it go down the way it's supposed to, and then take it from there. Because like something like HBAR, I was looking at deepening the bag, and what happened? It fell through and made a complete new. It's just falling through. Like it looks like to me now, clear head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We're gonna pull down. And we'll see ourselves down like 35% on each. But it doesn't seem like these are avoidable. With the way the weekend ended, even any hope that we had, it seems like we're going the opposite way. And it seems like it's almost like we need to stand outside of crypto right now. And that's not me saying, oh, we need to give up on crypto or we need to stop trading crypto. But we need to stop accumulating until it proves to us that it can push past these resistance levels. Or you need to look at buying for your first time once we start to clear some of these hurdles. Because to me, every time I try to make a bullish case, it can't even follow the little dynamics that I put out there. And until it breaks the resistance, we're still I believe we're in a bear market right now. And that's why we keep coming down lower than we started. So I would love to be here saying, oh, I have all this great news on a weekend. But to be honest with you, I'm elevating myself out of crypto at the moment. So like anything that I buy recently that's had nice profit, I'll just take it. Anything that I've been in that has a lot of profit over the top, it's a consideration moment. Like I'm heavily considering just dumping the rest of my XRP at $2 and then just picking it back up at $1.50 if I want to, and then just have that much more because that's a 25% differential. But at the same time, I still watch it with a cautious eye. But right now it seems like no matter what we do, they're using retail as this exit liquidity, and it feels like we're just paying everybody. It feels like we're paying everybody who would be, the institution who are pulling out and things like that. So it's a very weird spot we're in. And it's never a good sign when Bitcoin dominance is just surging. So when it looks like it's going to rotate up and fill out this exhaustion wick to the top side, and that, I mean, that's more pain for alt tokens. And when we have an opportunity, it's like we just continuously reverse. So like I said yesterday, I wouldn't do any kind of leverage and I wouldn't do anything. I would just sit pat and I would let this market kind of do what it's going to do. Unless you're looking to sell out like yesterday, that's the only option I can see right now. I can't see options of just buying everything right now because this is coming down and it's coming down hard. And now that we're coming down through these zones, we got rejected again at the resistance. This just tells me these bear flags are going to play out. We're going to see IOTA around 13 cents. You know, we're going to see some of these on the way down now. So I want to know how many of you have cashed out a lot of your positions and you have money on the sideline, or how many of you are actively buying this drop down. That's what I want to know. And make sure to hit that like button. I see we have 94 people here so far this morning, which is great to see. 24 people have only hit the like button. So if you could hit the like button, it would greatly help me push this content. I don't expect it, especially when the market's so red. I can't think of many people that are feeling real good about themselves right now, so they're probably not going to push into that. But like, there's some things that now I'm watching and we can't really get away from. The fact that ZIL rotated down, I think these bear flags are going to play out. And unless some kind of miracle happens, we're going to find ourselves on the bottom side of this, and it's going to be ugly. Like, it's going to be ugly. If the fact that DGB gave it all back, if it falls from here, I mean, that's a bear flag. I know it's on like that little bit of a falling channel consolidation possibly, but these are everything we were trying to avoid. You know, like it was something like this. Now it's starting to play down. It should come all the way down to, I mean, I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't come down there, assuming that the market continues to rotate down. Could it be a Black Monday? It could. I mean, it very well could. And, you know, nobody wants to see that kind of stuff. But honestly, with the way the market is, I don't hate the fact that I'm saying like, hey, you know, instead of watching it bleed 10% at a time, 15% at a time, I see a scenario here where we're just going to dump all the way out. So it's like, even if I wanted to buy some of this stuff right now, it's on the bottom side of a breakdown. Like, it's so hard because it really is starting to break down here. I almost think like if you haven't bought in, I wouldn't be buying now. And if you have any kind of profit, I almost feel like with what's coming, because these are set up on bona fide bear flags. And I think a lot of my audience who understands what we're looking at can see that at whole value. Like, I think you guys can see what we're talking about here. And I'm not going to say like I liquidated everything, but I took major profits over the weekend when we got rejected on early Saturday. And it was not because I want to not be in the market, but like, I don't know, man. This just feels like now where we're at, we're going to end up finding ourselves on this pull down. And if we find unless it pulls up here, and if it pulls up here, I'll I'd get crafty, I think. But, at this point, I think the market's become more risk than reward. And I know I've been emulating the same message for days on end. And it's not because I want to emulate this message. It's just this market's becoming more risk than reward. And when you're in a risk asset and it's more risk than reward, I think some of you understand what that means. Like, when you have more risk than reward inside of a cryptocurrency, it becomes a pretty dangerous zero-sum game. And when it becomes a zero-sum game, sometimes it's better to just sit on the sidelines, watch it play out. And like going through my phone right now and looking at some of this stuff, like we are hitting. You sold at the top, but now you're on the hook for capital gain. Patrick, I mean, I'm not being rude, but that's something broke people say. Do you know how many people I've heard that won't sell the top because they're afraid of paying a capital gains? So if you make $100,000, you're afraid to pay back, and it's all based on your income. So anywhere between 25 and 35. So if you have to pay 25 and 30 grand, You're not going to sell out to take the 70,000 in profit. Like that's the majority of people who say that about the capital gains have never made profit in crypto. And that's not me being a dick. That's just me being honest. Like that, most people who regurgitate that exact point don't make money when they're trading. And that's fair. That's fair. You know? But like, you know, I'm pained in a lot of ways. I'm pained in a lot of ways because I even took a shot on DGB again. And then when it broke down and gave back to 200, I made a stupid decision. And it was kind of like I bought it back just to resell. And then it's not where we're at right now with these exchanges too. The fees continuously go up, you know, and that's why I like BITUNIX when it comes to most crypto. So I'm starting to think like the stuff that I even had on crypto.com, I'm not looking to buy and sell. So like there's a scenario where my crypto.com stuff ceases to exist and I just trade on BITUNIX where I can get the lowest spot and leverage trading fee so that I can be in and out instead of being like, oh, I made 20% here, but I can only sell it if it goes down another 30% because of the fees both. So I'm trying to negotiate with myself here saying, you see how the fees are on crypto.com. There's got to be a better way for DGB, and there's got to be because there's only a couple that I would hold there that I buy there and sell there. So, you know, you sold H-bar at 19. Looks like a good time to buy back. I disagree. This broke down. Unless we're just going to immediately reverse back up. I don't know necessarily if this is a good time to buy, if I'm being honest with my friends. You know, if I'm being honest with all of you, I don't know if this is a good time to buy back. For me, I'm going to be honest with you. There's a very real scenario that I am not going to have as big of a volatile portfolio on this next time around. Like, I am very clearly looking at ZIL for this drop. If ZIL drops below the 0.0, which I believe it's probably, I think all of this crypto has likely proven that we're in a bear flag. And now we have to pay the repercussions of what that would mean. And I've got some hefty money on the sidelines. I took a shot earlier in the week. It only panned out for a few dollars. But once we got rejected, I made an educated decision for myself. And a lot of things I backed out of. I'm just being transparent. I am not in many things right now. XRP, yes. XRP healthcare, yes. But besides that, you know, algo, there's some. But outside of some of them, when they show me the bear flags, I can't shake this feeling, folks. I gave it a shot, a porous shot, for a little bit of a swing. But I can't help the fact that this stuff feels like if it falls out here, I mean, I don't know. I want to see if this can hold, though. Because I would be glad to use some of my dry powder. I just don't want to do it if it's going to drop this 25% on this bear flag. You know, and that's where I'm at right now. XDC was doing okay to start the morning, but then once the USA woke up, you know, it does what it does. The USA wakes up and it takes the gains away. XDC had a great night until we started waking up. It was up to 7.1 cents. Looked like it was trying to put in some inverse head and shoulders. Nice W reversal. Now we've got these engulfing candles to the downside. And we got to be very careful because if it plays one more of these candles in the 2 hourly, it's going to come right back through this area. It's just starting out a little shaky. They put in a lot of W reversals across the market that ended up coming through. So it's getting to a interesting spot. I see a lot of people saying they're not selling in the red. Like, that's not my issue. I wasn't in the red. I was very much in the green because I bought bear markets. And then I tried to do some strategic movement, but that strategic movement doesn't look like it's going to be strategic in the sense that I can't keep doing it because it started rotating on a lot of these. So I'm not seeing bullish continuations right now. I'm seeing a potential here that these are pulling through. DGB should have held somewhere around here if this was an inverse head and shoulders. At worst, it shouldn't have given back the 009 area, but now it's seemingly we're just coming through too quickly. I hope we can get some kind of bullish reversal here, and then my dry powder becomes buying power. But I'm thinking that it might not become buying power until we come down a little bit. And I've been trying to look at this from the contrarian view, but you can't keep being contrarian if we get rejected here. And this was my whole thing. If we get rejected on this push up, that's going to be the confirmation of a bearish drop. And then once we lose this 80,500 roughly, then we've got 70, what is that, 78, and then all the way down to 74, and then to my target of 64,000, because that would backtest. Full ISO 2022 compliant crypto coins integrated by, who says that? I always see everybody regurgitating the different dates of the ISO. How could you possibly know that? Because they have an extension right now for the full ISO 20022 framework to be released, and for banks and institutions and financial companies to not be able to do a 50-50 split, but that goes until mid to late 2028 with an amendment and then an extension that was put in. And that was done in 2022. So I don't know where everybody gets to end of 25. I hope you're right. But I can certainly see this playing out the way I've always thought, going to 28 to 32 would be our most prosperous time. And I don't like the fact that this played out like a bear market rally of 24 into 25 as of right now, because if that's the case, we've got a long journey here. Hey, I'm not telling anybody not to sell. Or not to hold or to sell. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm telling you what my plans are with my dry powder and what I'm looking at. Crypto Fear and Greed Index is up there still. Somebody said 4. It's not at 4. That's for the stock market. For crypto, it's at 34. Unless there's another indicator here that's not pushing out right now. This one says 27. But it's been horrendous as far as the coverage. Yes, buy if you can afford is one line of thinking, but don't buy just because you can afford. Buy because it's telling you to buy. Don't say I got $50,000 in my pocket, I can afford to buy here, and then watch it go down 20%. Make sure that's not going to happen first. You know, I'm trying to find the bullish scenarios here. You guys have been seeing it the last couple days. I've been trying, but all roads meet to this bearish continuation down. You know, and I don't want that road. I'm being honest. I don't want the road down. I'll take advantage of the road down, but my life is not as fun as an influencer for XRP, crypto, the alt tokens, and things like that. You know. So I think we're going to hunt that fair value gap at $1.50 on XRP. I think Bitcoin, assuming it does pull down one more time, because there's a scenario here where we're seeing a small inverse head and shoulders, but this pull down right here doesn't make me feel any better about that scenario, because this absolutely looks like it built in not only a head and shoulders here. I hope let's just put it this way. I hope we do a quick reversal here. And now that the USA woke up, we had this little dive, and now we can start to rotate back up. That is what I am hoping for this morning. I am hoping we had an overzealous sell-off. The USA got punched in the face a little bit, and then we're going to sit here, you know, no holds bar. And that's what we'll wait for. We'll see if that happens. We just have to be very careful that this big thing right here is not a fake inversion, and that this is not a bigger bear flag that would bring us down. I mean, the next level down would be $1.79 if this is playing out. And then it could be followed by $1.50 if we lose that pivot point. So with that being said, good morning. 10:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Sunday, April 6th, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So I'm going to leave here. I'm going to end this at about 10:35, 10:40, because I'm going to church as I do every Sunday. And, but I wanted to come on here, talk the market for a good 45, 50 minutes, or as much time as we had. Good morning, Tanya. Welcome in, love, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. It sure does, Beak. It sure does. Some people are saying fire sale, but I don't see the fire sale just yet. I see the same consolidatory zones, but the fire sale so far I'm not seeing. Some people say all you got to do is hold. To an extent, that's absolutely true. But if you bought in and it's up 4, 5, 6, 7x, and all you do is hold and watch it come back down to closer to your buy-ins, I don't like the logic of just holding, you'll be fine. That's not who I am. You know, that's not the way I've done my show for the last 4 years. I try to find opportunity. We sit in it in bear markets. So basically, we like to buy up the fear when it's in the extreme fear. Right now, we're in a weird spot. I don't think 34 is the zone necessarily for the fear talk. I think what will end up happening, especially because we're not breaking out of these zones, there's a very real chance that this pulls down the right arm now and at least conducts itself in a fashion where we need to release some tension here. We need to take action. Somebody says no, take profits is up. Wait a minute. No, take profits is up. So you're saying take profits if you're up. You're saying no, don't. Okay, no hold, just take profits. If that's what you're saying, I agree when you take profits. Kenny, thank you for rejoining Tom's Army for a second month with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. That's incredible. Especially in these trying times, I really appreciate the continued support from my audience. I do. Sorry, Tom, had to get a new debit card, so had to renew membership with new card. Oh, don't be sorry, my friend. I greatly appreciate that continued dedication when you did get a new card. I really appreciate that. The fact that you would re-sign up. I do appreciate that. Let's see where because we have our weekly candle closing today, so I want to see where we're at in the, ooh. See that bearish cross just powered through the 100. We made a new low today, failed to make a new high in the daily. The only good news is we still have 9 hours and 44 minutes here. So that's good. The weekly, ugh. That is nasty. We had a weekly engulfing all the way through to a new low. And even when we came back up on some kind of rally from $1.95, we're still below the last wick. That would be considered a very bearish close on the weekly. So we do have some work to do here on this Sunday, which is not impossible. It's not impossible. It is not impossible. I think, you know, we're all going to expect like a gigantic dump. And I would love to see like it start out with like a 10 to 15% rundown. And then everybody's so afraid to do anything. And then, you know, when it gets to where it needs to get to, if we do the dump down, so many people are going to be stuck because they're going to be so afraid to buy. That's why if we could get this last rotation down, I think for me, you, and everybody else watching who understand what's going to happen, you know, at some point hereafter, if we do a pull down, I think we could make a phenomenal amount of return wealth on the return rally. But it's got to be set up in a position where it makes sense. You know, it's not necessarily the most bullish when you start to see assets go up 25, 30%. Then they come down 30, 35%, and then they come back up a few percent. So, and a lot of people are seeing it too, that this looks like a lot of folks predicting a massive uptick soon and another drop. Yeah, well, a lot of people are saying up and down, but the charts are suggesting we had a chance to go up end of the week, which is why, you know, we thought it would have a little reverse rally there. But the problem is we hit all the firm rejection points. Every single asset hit its absolute resistance the last couple of days, and it's crazy. And not just that, like, we really need to push up here if we're going to. We can't really, because if we come back down, we're just going to revalidate these lower areas. So, I mean, at best case scenario, I guess $1.90. So, that's, some people say pray and hold. Absolutely. I understand that too. Now, I'll be here every day, though. The bottom line is I'll be here every day, and we're going to try to figure this out one step at a time. Yes, Sundays do feel like a debilitating act at times. And, man, oh man, it's such a crazy time. Isn't it a crazy time we live in crypto? Like, if we're being honest with ourselves, we are living in a crazy, majestic time. That's exactly it, Pump Mine, or pump. We do. We go up, and then we just take back all the gains. So that's typical of a bear market setup. I appreciate that somebody says I'm a legend. I appreciate that. I know some of you got to see what I actually look like outside of just my face. Some of you might not have seen it. But if you looked at my video from yesterday, after 4 months, I got my Michigan title belt in. And I bought it from Dubai because I wasn't getting it from China. So I had to wait for it to get made and put together from the United Arab of Emirates. I like their materials better in Dubai than I do in China. But anyhow, I put in a short and some people are like, wow, you're in a lot better shape than I thought. I guess, you know, my face is a lot bigger when I'm up close to the picture, but that's what I actually look like. Oops. So you guys can actually see what I look like. So I've definitely lost a lot of weight over the last, 3-4 years. I've been working out for 3 years plus, and I've been fasting for about 3 years now, 16 hours a day. So it definitely paid off. I think some people were surprised when they seen my picture because I got a lot of messages saying, man, you're in a lot better shape than I thought. I just assumed you're a husky. And I appreciate those comments. But we'll see here. We'll see if crypto, now that the USA has woken up, and, you know, we're at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on things like that. Fasting definitely the best medicine. I agree. And there's no problem with stacking on these drops either. Like, if you're a person who has, Sally says, saw it, Tommy Looker. Oh, I appreciate that. See, it was such a confidence boost. And, you know, I'll eat at 12 o'clock today. I don't eat after about 8:30 at night. Sometimes until 9, depending on if I start eating later. And then I go from 12, I start eating around 12 p.m. every day. Unless I start at 12:30. Because sometimes, so between 12 and 1, and then I'll go 8 hours of eating and then fast for 16. So it's usually 12 to 8, 12:30 to 8:30 is what I like. I only eat one meal a day, but I snack with, like, my fruits, vegetables. I do like oats because they help fill you up too. But I like yogurts and things. I don't eat a lot of chips and things like that, but I still like chips. I'd rather cook at home than order out. I'm a very basic eater. But yeah, I think the fasting works great. It's definitely, you get accustomed to it after a while. Thank you, see, Julie, people are saying I look fabulous. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that. Since you look fab, Tom. Self-management is very tough, John. See, Julie said I'm handsome. But no, it is the toughest. The best thing about myself is I'm a self-motivator, so I don't need anybody else to motivate me. So, like, I literally am psychotic in the head. I get up, I do the exact same thing every day because I like routine. Carr says, I like your theory that risk on and crypto separating from markets. Trump is pushing crypto. I'm too due. Contrarian liquidity. Exactly. I do liquidity and fear. Some traders pay no attention. Weekend 14 weeks down. S&P over. Yep. And that's why I think with the volatility we have, would it be a surprise if to start late tonight and into tomorrow, they kept the pressure on so that when we go into crypto on Monday, when the markets all come back online, that we're like, oh man, this is a dying horse. And maybe you do get a 7 to 12% drop again with crypto right now as we lead in to Monday, because we were down 1,700 points on Friday, 2,200 points on Thursday, 2,200 points on Friday in the Dow. It's not just going to 100% stop falling. So the Dow is putting in a very bearish ending to the week. And one could dare argue that with this kind of an ending, we have to see if we come through 37,900. If that happens, this is a complete reversal in the Dow. And then it's all bets are off. Once you have all bets are off, that is when it gets tricky. And that's why right now we can't really say A or B, because we're still above this key breakout zone that we never back tested. So for me, looking at it, I still see another 400 to 600 point drop in the Dow to start Monday, assuming it wants to come all the way back down to the cycle back test, and we'll go from there. I mean, commodities, we're going to get a big insight this morning, or this afternoon, when commodities come, or precious metals come back online. We've got the gold-silver ratio over 102. So silver's become a great buy in comparison to gold, down 7% on Friday. I suspect that all of this is playing into its own. Like, I suspect risk on, risk off. The reason they were all hit the same is because we're going to end up doing a transcending flip, but that can't happen until some of the noise gets cycled out. So I'm trying to figure out the best possible scenario for crypto to start pumping out. And I've been looking at Ethereum a lot too. And Ethereum's back below that extreme pivot point at 1850. You all know how important that was for me. After falling out of a rising wedge, that would confirm a bear flag if we couldn't hold that pivot point. And that's why I have it there at 1853. The fact we're below it, if this isn't a double bottom, and it doesn't look like it at the moment that this is, but we'll see. If it falls through here, we're going to start talking about a massive drop. And that is what we're going to have to fear. And maybe it doesn't go to 500, but maybe it resets all the way down to 976, 1,000. Like, that's a 35% drop, if not more from here. But I still have in the back of my mind, like, I know things are starting to happen a little quicker. And they're starting to rotate a little faster. And when, like, gold and silver and that kind of stuff starts dumping as fast as it does, you're going to have a populace here. And might I say, I commend every one of you for being here. 147 people here. And this kind of a market is tremendous. When it used to be like this, we'd have about 70 people. So we've doubled our output when it's more bearish. And that's incredible. And Kat, thank you so much for your comment. Also, the $10 donation, this YouTube Super Chat, and being in Tom's Arm for 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. I really appreciate that. And also, I like looking at pictures. I love your smile, too. I see in your photo there's a smile on YouTube. I love when there's pictures and I can see my guys and gals' faces, especially when you're smiling. It brings that nice positive influence, at least when I'm looking at it. But we're not done yet, okay? Despite the market looking bad right now, we're not completely done yet. Because one can argue $1.90, as long as you're on the top side of this pattern, it's not over. But then you start to come below the 200-day and you get squeezed between the pattern and the 200-day. And that's like $1.94 down to $1.90, maybe $1.88, depending on how far this wiggles out. Maybe even $1.80. That's how it can get tricky, because this down here is $1.82. So, I mean, we don't want this daily reversal to the downside to keep showing like this. So we need some help. We need the markets to start buying some real testicular fortitude here is what I'll say. Let's see if we have any news. XRP will explode, and this Korean expert says he'll be laughing at everybody. High stakes setup analyst one of sharp move to $17 or 65 cents. I mean, how can you even trust bullshit like that? XRP bulls $5. XRP price sell-off set to accelerate in April as inverse cup and handle hints at 25% decline. I'll read this because you could absolutely make the case that cup and handle is turning inverse. And then if you look at it that way, I'll give a little bit of, I'll read this. XRP price sell-off to accelerate in April as inverse cup and handle hints at 25% decline. So, and this is something to pay attention to. And that often you have this inverse cup and handle that'll happen when you start forming a head and shoulders pattern. And then when you start looking at it, did we form a head and shoulders pattern after an inverse cup and handle? Honestly, we did. If you want to go down that direction. So XRP prices plunged more than 35% since reaching a multi-year high of $3.40 in January. And the downtrend may deepen in April as new bearish signals emerge. Somebody said CRO is a good buy. A lot of things look like a good buy, but we need to make sure that we don't fall out. Let's examine these catalysts in detail. XRP nears a classic technical breakdown. XRP's recent price action and is flashing a classic bearish reversal signal, dub inverse cup and handle formation. We've talked about the inverse cup and handle a few times. It's just we don't want to acknowledge it. The inverse cup and handle is a bearish chart pattern that signals fading buyer momentum after an uptrend. It resembles an upside down teacup, with the cup marking a rounded decline and the handle forming after a brief consolidation. All right. I mean, we all know what our chart looks like. Does that seem valid to anybody? We're 35 minutes in. I mean, I'm kind of seeing that as well myself because we've talked about it. Somebody else in the audience talked about it too a couple days ago, which was awesome. A break below the handle support typically, I think it was on Friday, confirms the pattern because we were talking about how it could be rejected and then it would confirm an inverse cup and handle, which is never a good thing. Often leading to a drop equal to the cup's height. So instead of the move up, it would be the move down. Biotech, yes, it was biotech because I remember somebody made a comment about it as well, about your name when I was talking about it. They said biotech said it. And I think it was Friday, right? You were talking about it. We were talking about if we got that rejection. I think we needed to get past 229, but if we got rejected around 222, it was a horrible sign. Even 215 was a bad sign. And then when you look at the VWAP, I mean, you've got volume all the way down below. So you have a short biotech at where did I see that? $2.12. Not a bad short. Honestly, if this inverse cup and handle plays out, it's going to come all the way down to that $1.50. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm not just blowing smoke with that number. Just like I'm not blowing smoke with Bitcoin at 64K. That is not a smoke blower. I'm being as real as I can be by continuously talking about these numbers. And I know some of my audience gets mad and leaves and unfollows when I talk about this. But ever since I started talking about the possibility of the breakdown, I've picked up 900 new subscribers in about the last 4 days from starting to talk about the realistic point of view of it starting to fall. And I've gotten a lot of messages in that regard, which is surprising because, yeah, a lot of my audience does like when it drops, but not normally the new sector. So seeing new people joining the channel and then being happy that somebody's actually talking about a potential drop and talking about the potential move up if it happens, I think people like transparency and seeing it both ways because we'll be on top of it either way. And we still know if $1.94 and then $1.90 doesn't break, it can go all the way down to $1.82, depending on how far out we push on that falling channel side. But this inverse head and shoulders is starting to drag on just a little too long, to be honest. So we need to make a move now, or it's going to be to the downside. So a breakdown below this horizontal consolidation range. Pump Master Flash, have a great day at work, my friend. Yeah, I'm going to be logging off here in about 5 to 10 minutes because I'm going to be walking up to church. It starts at 11. I like to do my weekly prayer up at the church. Not because I think you have to. Not because you have to. Connor, inverse head and shoulders, get a life. You don't have to delete your message. I'm fine. Oh, deleted by Jorge. You guys don't need to delete those. That's fine. Those are not too bad. Those are just people speaking of what they want. I'm sorry, mods do what they do, but you know, we try to be helpful, not hurtful, kind, not rude, things like that, positive, not negative. But not all negative comments are technically negative. They're just sharing their opinion in a way. Yeah, I know. I understand that. I definitely understand that, Jorge, because I seen it up farther, but I get it. You don't have to do anything else. That's just sometimes the mod speaks, and we must listen to our ones in charge. A breakdown below this horizontal consolidation range could validate the bearish structure, opening the door for a potential move toward the $1.58 support area, as suggested by the measured move projection shown on the chart above. In other words, XRP can decline by over 25% in April if the inverse cup and handle setup plays out as intended. Peter Brandt says, updating a chart for those interested, I have no vested interest up or down in XRP, but it is forming a textbook head and shoulders pattern. So we are now range bound above $3. I would not want to be short. Below $1.90, I would not want to own it. Head and shoulders projects to $1.07. Don't you? It doesn't. Well, if we're breaking the entirety of the pattern, yes, it can go down to there. And I've talked about how we're not in a bull market anymore for a long time. Ever since late December, early January, when we finally flipped and we dropped that. Well, it took a little time in January, but we've been in a bona fide bear market until otherwise notated. So until that changes, you're always going to get more dumps than gains. Just like in a bull market, every time it dumped, you'd get a higher rise. In bear markets, every time it rises, you get a bigger dump. But alt season will be here eventually. That's the one thing you can hang your hat on. We're just trying to find where the best opportune moment is. Adding to the sell-off risk is data from the... And remember, if you're watching me, we were in the bear market in 22 and 23 buying, and we sold out the bull market in 21, almost at the exact top. We bought the bottoms as it was consolidating out, and then we waited for a couple years to buy back, and then we had to wait a couple years for the payoff. And now it's one of those things, like, we had massive profit, and I was not afraid to say I took like 70, 80K in profit when it was way up. And I tried to take a little bit of swings here and there. I still have certain things that I have a lot of, but I wasn't afraid to do what my gut told me. Nobody wants to buy in extreme fear for all that time. I was buying. Everybody wants to buy in extreme greed and greed. I was selling. Now we're in fear, and I don't exactly think it's the exact time where, if you're not in at all, that you should be starting to buy and put 100% of your portfolio. This is very dangerous. The SEC case is over, but not officially. It's only been told by Brad Garlinghouse. The SEC needs to come out, and it'll come out. I suspect it's probably going to be with some kind of downturn. They'll finally come out when everybody's has no interest, and they're like, oh, see, even though they're saying this, that didn't, like, a lot of people are getting skeptical on XRP because when Garlinghouse came out, nothing happened. Had an initial 20% rise, then we dumped about 35. So now it's like we're exit liquidity. It's been my own conspiracy that everybody who pushed for Trump and Harris and donated to the campaigns, they got paid off on this pump that happened. And now every successive time as they're trying to sell out their small pumps, but retail is holding the... This is like a tax on retail. These are all taxes on retail, in my opinion. So it shows the point of control at around $2.10 to $2.20. A key support zone. A breakdown below this high volume area could trigger a sharper drop. Yeah, it was supposedly, instead of it being 125 million, you heard right. They're only going to be liable to pay 50 million, which means they get to keep 75 million. So another cheap way to give the SEC and the US government XRP, because I believe Bitcoin and XRP was created by the same person, not Satoshi Nakamoto, but the US government. So I believe the government created Bitcoin, and then XRP was created as a faster, cheaper, more expansive way to move money and a better way of holding liquidity with much more tokens at a much cheaper price to start. So I think as Bitcoin gets phased out in the future, it's the same creators. The World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, the US government has so much interest in not just Bitcoin, but now the interest is turning into like XRP and some of the other ones. I believe the government has a firm control over XRP, and that's why you got to be with it, not against it. That's just my personal belief, and I've made a lot of money with that belief. A breakdown below this high volume area could trigger a sharper drop, as lower volume levels below have offered little historical support in recent history. Conversely, a strong close above the 50-day period, 4-hour exponential moving average, red line near $2.14 could invalidate the inverse cup and handle. That's why that area was so important at 215 I kept talking about. You start laddering 215 to 222 to 229 to 265 to 298 or 288 to 298. You can start laddering. That initial move back below 215 is big. Why is Grok saying XRP is over $50 in Korea? Because Grok's a pile of AI hot shit. It's AI, my friend. It's gonna... I don't know. If it was $50, I think I'd be talking about it. Unless the US dollar is completely overtaken the Korean... in Korea, but I highly doubt that. So paying toward the 200-day... So conversely, a strong close above 50-day period 4-hour EMA. Red line near $2.14 could invalidate the inverse cup and handle pattern. Such a breakout may shift momentum in favor of the bulls, potentially paving the way for a rally toward the 200 period 4-hour EMA, blue line around 228. Oh yeah, that's not a joke. What Patrick just said, they absolutely made it. South Korea made XRP an officially recognized currency. That is not a joke. That's for real. So stuff is happening. So rally towards the 204-hour EMA blue line at 228. That's, again, 229 and above is why that's so important. And being above 215, that first layer. XRP whale flow point to more sell pressure. As of April 5th, CryptoQuant's 90-day moving average whale flow chart was showing sustained net outflow. Oh, my God. That's a big outflow. from XRP's largest holder since late 2024. During XRP's sharp price boom in Q4 of 2024, whale activity flipped deeply negative, indicating large entities were distributing into strength and selling the local tops. The trend has continued into 2025 with the total whale flow remaining firmly below zero. The divergence between rising prices and declining whale support suggests weakening institutional conviction and raises concerns over XRP's near-term price stability unless accumulation resumes. U.S. President Donald Trump's global tariffs and the Federal Reserve's slightly hawkish response to them have further dampened risk sentiment, which may weigh XRP and the broader crypto market down in the coming. That's the other thing. Everybody. When Jerome Powell came out, he said, we're not going to have an emergency meeting and we're not going to cut rates net for now. We'll see how tariffs work. So that tells me they're going to allow probably risk and everything else to fall again. Possibly. We're still looking at the contrarian side of it. But if they play that route, they would allow this to fall one more brick, one more leg down. And then, then they would be able to cut rates. I think now they're going to cut rates like possibly 4 to 5 times this year. No less than 3. But this is setting it up for like a 4 to 5 time rate cut this year. So everybody, I'm going to call that a wrap because I want to get going. I want to get up to church. It's very important for me. I'm XRP Future Millionaire. Thank you for the over 32,300 subscribers. For everybody who watches me, I've been doing this since March 24th of 2021. Just over 4 years. I've never missed a day of doing this, and I'm very proud of that accomplishment by not just me, but the audience as well who comes here every day. Make sure you look at BITUNIX, the lowest spot and leverage trading fees, lowest maker-taker fee, no KYC or VPN. If you're trading on there, USA or worldwide, they have XRP. They have so many different that you can buy IOTA, Algo, IOTA in the future, well, on the leverage side of it, but you can do 1X. They've got everything you can think of. They don't have XDC, but they've got tons of things. And for me, I'm looking to trade more on BITUNIX and not on other exchanges in case I want to do swing trading and buying and selling and not have to worry about the fees. You're capped on crypto.com and a few because you seriously need at least a 7 to 12% drop to pay for the 2.5%, 3% in, 2.5%, 3% out, depending on where you set it up. So I like the exchanges more that allow you to trade and you don't get hammered on the buy and sell. And that's why I encourage BITUNIX. It's my favorite one. Hands down, it's my favorite one. And get caught up in something like that while we're having drops. Because this doesn't look good right now. So have a blessed morning. I'll do another short later today. I may do another live tonight as the futures market opens, as we flip at 8 o'clock. But it all depends on the schedule because a lot of times on Sunday it just gets crazy. So thank you all. Thank you all so much for understanding my situation as well with my special needs son and just things that go on. So I'm very busy a lot of times. And don't forget to give thanks to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on this beautiful Sunday. Give thanks, show humbleness, show humility, be humble, and don't forget to give thanks. Say, your good fortunes and for each and every one.